Hello there, Dan the Weatherman here. Hey, welcome to my weather show. This is the global edition where I take a look at things going on around the globe. Once again, it's been a very busy week. It's been an intense week. Climate extremes. Mother Nature has done one of those foot to the floor and just brought some devastating weather across parts of the globe. We've been talking tropical cyclones, intense floodings, and of course, the heat and the cold. This is the anomalies, the temperature anomalies across the globe, where you see blue, cooler than normal, the red and almost that rusty color there. Those are some of the warmer spots. The similar sort of thing. Now we're shifting into what is the southern hemisphere spring, northern hemisphere autumn. So we get more of the flex. You start to open up the deep dark freezer. That brings more colder air. So you can see more of those surges of cold coming out. One particular one there, tracking towards Australia. A couple of the colder spots too will be again Greenland, thing quietening down after what has been quite an intense season of melt there. It will stay warm across western and northwestern parts of North America. Another surge of cool will work into parts of northwest Russia. We'll see more heat again for parts of Europe. But let's get in close and see what's going on. Of course, we are getting to the business end of the tropical cyclone, the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin. We've of course been seeing Ida and all the devastation over the past week. There'll be some more to contend with. One particular one will be Fred. That'll be churning across the Atlantic. But over this week, watch for what will be quite intense warming, another ridge to western parts of Canada. But as things start to cool, we're going to get some good energy. So watch these wiggles here develop and grab a tropical cyclone into quite an intense system that'll move into western parts of Europe with some wind and some rain. Further east, in the meantime, you've got quiet weather. And you look at all this and you say, what's this? This is the intense cold, warm. It just gives the jet stream it's like Mother Nature on high octane with this. And that is those spring westerlies. And they will really crank into places like South Africa and as well into parts of Australia and New Zealand. Quite a windy spell for the week. So that little tropical troublemaker gets engaged into the westerly flow. Watch this thing here. That will track through and you notice it's quiet weather, a ridge, warm, initially over western parts of Europe, and then that will end up with some pretty mean and gnarly weather, boom, to barrel its way in. One of the things we've been seeing, of course, with the intense weather this time, as the planet warms, we have more juice in the atmosphere. The easiest way to look at it is what we look at in meteorology is the precipitable water, where you have the actual amount of water you can squeeze out, like big sponges in the atmosphere, squeeze out at any one time. Where you see the orange and the red, that is as much as 3 to 4 inches of moisture to squeeze out, not as much across the poles and in between. And this is so important is because over the course of the week, we've seen that play such a big part in the tropical troublemakers. This was, of course, Ida, as it barreled its way into southern parts of Louisiana, wind gusts 150 miles per hour on that eastern side of the eye wall. And another way to look at this, of course, has been churning its way through. Look at the eye, so intense, great looking outflow. But as it came in, I mentioned that wind. This is a different way to look at it. This is the Doppler velocity scan. That is what we call the zero line. The radar site sitting right about there. The green is something coming towards the radar site. The red goes away. 150, and you put your eye to that color there, and then you look for this as I put it into motion, and you can just see there it is, the eye wall, that color there, that color, that was the strongest winds going that way into the radar site. They go away, and that, of course, is your flow. This is the same thing we use when we're checking for, of course, mesocyclones, the beginnings of tornadoes. But look at that as it churned through, and you got some of the vortices with the eye wall starting to weaken. But precipitable water and the stronger conditions with this so important because flooding scenes like this in New York, several hundred miles inland. How do you get such conditions? Of course, with a hurricane moving in, it's sucking all the water. But this is where the atmosphere is changing so much. Precipitable water. Remember the one I showed just before? And you look at all the colors here. That was it coming in. So it sucked up all the moisture. But nowadays, with more moisture in the atmosphere, these storms can hold more and they just carry it like having a bigger sponge and you're squeezing out more. So that was the Hurricane Ida. Makes its landfall, but notice there's still a lot of the red, all the juice in the atmosphere, even after it's made landfall. Then you get that surge, and that surge there, bang, right on top of New York. That's why we saw the devastating, not just the rain, but how fast it squeezes it out of the atmosphere at rainfall rates of as much as 90 millimeters in 1 hour. That's why places like New York can see as much as several hundred millimeters of rain. A much, much quieter week for them. That, of course, is long gone. One frontal boundary there. There's just a settled area of high pressure in the upper levels. But we're not done with the hurricane season. We're getting to the business end, so there'll be something else. Put your eyes to the east coast there, to Bermuda. That'll be Larry coming into the shot by the end. This could be something for the Gulf Coast again. It'll be something low end, but it could be a troublemaker. And here's something off the Mexican coast. Larry will just churn through east of Bermuda. But I mentioned that. Not so much for the US. Notice it's pretty quiet. Much, much quiet, except for the Gulf Coast this week. A different story for Europe. They start off with high pressure, looking pretty good. And with that flow with high there, that's a very warm, late summer, decent flow for the trips to the park for the British Isles, for instance, looking good. That is the change. That works in through the course of the week. Notice how we start to see the blue. Initially just the front there, the high will shift east. Remember the tropical troublemaker Larry. Watch this. All of a sudden we get this one here, churn in some wet weather. That's going towards the weekend. And then by the time we go to the weekend, but that's nothing. Then we start to bring in the tropical energy. We bring in the strong to severe gales for next weekend. Look at this, tightening isobars. And these things have a mind of their own. That could be something to barrel in to northern and western parts of Europe, really getting into that unsettled time as well. More devastating flooding. This time it's in New Zealand, the North Island just to the west of Auckland, getting as much as 200 millimeters of rain in the span of half a day. How does that happen? Remember, we've got more sponges up in the clouds. You can squeeze more moisture out. It comes down faster. In this particular case, the north of the North Island, there was the area of low pressure. Winds like that, low down, winds like that, higher up. Converging winds, they get up, they build the clouds, squeeze out all that extra moisture, and boom, those devastating scenes we saw. And the computer model, just 12 hours out, didn't even pick it out. It had just a weak little front, barely even a ripple in the upper level streamlines, but 12 hours later, it all changed to a deep low, giving the strength of the winds down low and that upper level feature to squeeze out all the moisture. So the atmosphere is constantly changing, but a much, much quieter looking week for New Zealand. It'll be up, it'll be down. That's the first system to roll its way in there with strong to severe gales. That'll be a spell of some rain on Tuesday. Cooler southwest, a real up and down roller coaster ride for the weather. Blustery westerlies there, and then something much, much cooler as we go into the course of the end of the week. So catch your breath. There's a bit of everything. The climate extremes, they keep coming. That's the weather for now.